Hello and welcome back to the fitting room. You ask why I'm looking so crazy? It's my look all the time. Goofy and weird, but no time to be goofy. October is not far away. Let's go. Starting with the vertical measurements. I will measure from my waistline to the midpoint of my hip line, which is the widest point of the hips. Make sure all measurements are taken from the side. Then I will measure from my hip point to my knee line. Next is the full length or ankle length. You may measure to the floor for a longer pants. I may add 2 inches to see if I like it longer. Make sure you do not bend the knees in measuring from the hip down. Wrap the measuring tape around the waistline, leaving a finger gap in between for ease. I will later add 1 inch for sewing allowance, which should equal to 1.5 inches in all, for ease and sewing allowance. Make sure your clothes are not in the way when measuring. I will double check my measuring before drafting. Next, for the hip circumference, measure around the buttocks at the widest point. Make sure the tape measure is not twisted and is equal around the buttocks. Moving on to the thigh circumference, measure around the widest point of the thigh. Making sure the tape measure is not twisted and is equal around the thigh. Next is the circumference of the knee. I'm not sure if it matters if the knee is bent, but to make sure when I bend the knee I have enough room, I like to take both measurements and go by the midpoint of the 2 measurements. The fabric I'm working with is not stretchy, so for no extra pressure on the seams, I will go by the midpoint, then adjust later. Now for the ankle circumference, wrap the tape measure around the ankle the same way. Depending on your design, whether you desire a bell-bottom look or straight leg, add 0.5 for ease and 1 inch for sewing allowance. This will give you enough room to pull the pants over the heel without any problems. Let's head over to the drafting table to get going. To begin, I will measure out my waistline 1 inch from the edge. Then from the waistline, I will measure down to the full length or ankle length, adding 2 inches for sewing allowance. Then from the waistline, I will measure my crotch line. Along with my knee line. Moving 2 inches up from the crotch line, I will measure my hip line. This is standard measurement. Oh my goodness. I'm still in training. Let me revert back to my notes. I think I missed a step. Dividing the hip circumference by 4, then mark on the waistline, hip line, and crotch line. This is the block. Picking up from the crotch line, you will measure the distance divided by 4. Wherever it is, add it to the crotch line. This is the crotch extension. Then go in 0.5 in on the waistline. This is the slope line, then curve to the crotch extension point. Now divide the waistline circumference by 4 and place it on the waistline, plus 1 inch for ease and sewing allowance, connecting it to the center back hip point. Returning back to the crotch line, I will remeasure it again to find the midpoint by dividing by 2, then extending it to the knee and ankle. This is the crease line. After connecting the crease line, I will divide my thigh and ankle circumference by 2, placing each measurement on both sides of the crease line. Then connect all the points. Here I have skipped a step, which I will correct. I didn't realize it until I felt confident to ink the pattern. So I waved goodbye, then I was like, oops! I turned my light back on and sat back down and hit record. From drafting patterns before, I only knew of the block. Then I channeled surf, ran across another channel creating the slope. So I studied what she did and understood my block butt. Wait, I haven't even noticed my mistake yet. I'm too busy inking. Finally, it dawns on me. My waistline is corrupt. Going down 1 inch from the waistline on the side front. Then connecting it to the center back waist point. Finding the midpoint of the waistline by dividing by 2, inserting my dart 4.5 inches from the midpoint. Then connecting to the 0.5. Then dividing my 1 inch dart by 2, placing 0.5 on each side. Adding 1 inch sewing allowance around the pattern. Stay tuned.